From ITN, News at 10 with Trevor McDonald.
High-speed train crash kills more than 100. Fierce debate over new claims on Diana's death. Blair hints at action to stop the Kosovo killings. Scuffles as Billie Joe's foster father faces court. And Scotland prepare to change their World Cup fortunes. Good evening. Rescue workers are tonight still pulling bodies from the wreckage of a high-speed train crash in northern Germany. The number of dead is horrifyingly high. Officials said this evening it is at least 100. The disaster involved an express train traveling at 125 miles an hour on the Munich to Hamburg line. For some reason, the passenger carriages came off the track and concertinaed into a road bridge, which was brought crashing down on top of them. All day, British troops stationed nearby have been helping at the scene. Our Europe correspondent Bill Neely reports.
It was the pride of the German railway, the country's safest, fastest train. Tonight it's hard to believe this ever was a train of 13 sleek carriages. 3 of them are here, crushed beyond recognition under a concrete bridge. There were dozens of passengers in each one. More than 1,000 rescuers have been at the scene, but from all of this, there wasn't much to rescue. It was just after 11 this morning that train 884 approached this bridge at 125 miles an hour. The front locomotive got through, but somehow the carriages derailed and jackknifed into the bridge. It collapsed, other carriages were crushed, wreckage flew. The deaths and the injuries were appalling. More than 300 people were on board, no one's sure exactly how many, but 6 out of 7 are tonight either injured or dead. This section containing most of those untouched by Germany's deadliest rail disaster in 30 years. Investigators are puzzled. They found a car beneath the bridge and at first thought the train had hit it, then derailed. But one survivor says the train rattled and shook 2 minutes before the crash. The driver survived, but he may not solve the mystery. He knew nothing until he felt a tug, looked back, and saw his carriages were missing. They died in a luxury high-tech train, so fast it rivaled planes, so crammed with computers it was considered foolproof. It could carry up to 760 passengers. By sheer chance today, it did not. Among the rescuers were 30 British soldiers from the Royal Fusiliers who travelled 80 miles to help. They and the rest are still searching tonight, but 12 hours on, there's little hope of finding survivors. Just grief and bewilderment at such wreckage, such carnage. Bill Neely, News at 10.
So, are there any safety lessons to be learned from the disaster? And given the train's speed at the time, could anything have reduced the death toll? Here's our science editor, Lawrence McGinty.
An accident like this happens once in a lifetime. The last one in Britain was 41 years ago, when 2 trains collided in South London and brought down a bridge on top of them, killing 89 people. Experts say these accidents are extremely rare.
This is a 1,000,000 to 1 chance. I mean, we probably won't see an accident of this kind in our lifetimes again. The train was travelling at full speed, and obviously there was no chance to brake. Whereas in normal accidents, there's usually the drivers at least hit the brakes by then, and hence the very high death toll.
Although the speed of the train, 125 miles an hour, undoubtedly added to the death toll, until today, these trains were thought among the safest in Europe. Indeed, this accident raises most questions, not about the train itself, but about the bridge. Experts say this was an old bridge on an upgraded section of track. The accident would have been much less serious if the bridge had been new.
It is very likely that the bridge would not have been designed with an intermediate support. It would have been a single-span bridge. In that case, the train could have derailed and travelled on for another 2,000 or 3,000 meters and come to a controlled stop without any accident happening.
Experts say this railing on the road bridge was inadequate to stop cars crashing onto the track. The roadside crash barrier stops just before the bridge. And modern bridges are designed not to be brought down by a train derailed on the track beneath. There is, however, one question about the train's safety. It's made up of carriages, each with 2 double-axled bogies. In a crash, the carriages can ride up and become derailed. Experts say articulated trains, where adjoining carriages share a bogie and are linked more firmly, may be less likely to leave the rails in a crash. Even if there is a crash, passengers have a better chance of surviving in modern designs of high-speed trains. But even the best design would have made little difference in an impact like today's. Lawrence McGinty, News at 10.
A controversial documentary on ITV tonight raised new questions about the car crash which killed Princess Diana. Already it sparked a new debate about the different theories surrounding her death. The program suggested that the driver, Henri Paul, could have been in the pay of the French Secret Service, and it disclosed that the princess's former lover, James Hewitt, had allegedly been warned off continuing their relationship. Sue Saville reports.
Speculation about exactly why Diana and Dodi died has continued for 9 months. New details were revealed in a documentary tonight about the driver Henri Paul having numerous bank accounts.
Just a short walk away, he had another 3 accounts here at Barclays in the Avenue de l'Opéra. But that's not all.
A friend of Henri Paul said the driver had close contacts in the French and foreign secret services. A conspiracy theory continued with evidence from Diana's former lover, James Hewitt, saying he'd received anonymous threats. But is it really plausible that the bureaucratic secret services could have been involved? Intelligence expert Rupert Allison thinks not.
The proposition that somebody would conduct surveillance, authorize a surveillance operation, or participate in any kind of warning concerning this is just simply not living in this real world.
Tonight's documentary claimed that Henri Paul had a blood carbon monoxide level of 20%, which would have incapacitated him, but he appeared fine, so could the sample have been wrong? Raising such new theories was defended by the producer.
The irresponsible thing is just to say, it's easily explained, he was fantastically drunk, he crashed the car, that's it. Because what we show in the programme is, that's not it. There's a lot more to be uncovered here.
Watching the programme tonight, royal writer Hugo Vickers was astounded by the revelations.
Seems to me to be dabbling in exactly the sort of thing which everybody promised we would get away from in the immediate aftermath of the death of the Princess of Wales. Seems to be speculation, a lot of theories put forward by interested parties, and I deplore it.
The controversy continues tomorrow night with another documentary about the crash, this one appearing to challenge some of the conspiracy theories. But all such speculation is unhelpful, according to critics.
If people want to know what happened, then I think it would be a very good idea if people waited until the French authorities have had the opportunity to fully review all the circumstances and to publish the results of their inquiry.
These new documentaries raise many questions, but provide no concrete answers. Those are still being sought by the French investigation, which takes a step forward with a summit of witnesses in Paris on Friday. Sue Saville, News at 10.
The issues raised in tonight's documentary will be discussed on ITV after News at 10. The Prime Minister said today the international community must act with great firmness to end the conflict in Kosovo between the Serbs and the Albanian majority. He said we couldn't afford to have the disorder spread. Mr. Blair said he hoped that was a sufficiently clear message to President Milosevic of Serbia. Our diplomatic editor Robert Moore reports.
As Serb forces continue to attack ethnic Albanian targets in Kosovo, the fear remains the whole region could quickly be destabilized. Thousands of people are said to have fled the onslaught of Serb forces. Villages abandoned after fierce gun battles between Serb security troops and those fighting for independence for Kosovo. The latest pictures from the region show some of those refugees fleeing through the hills and into northern Albania. Many clearly frightened after the shelling and the fighting. Such scenes are an immediate challenge to the international community, desperate to avoid an escalating conflict. In the Commons, the Prime Minister vowed the West would act to contain the crisis.
We are watching the situation in Kosovo extremely carefully. We believe we cannot afford to have an extension of violence and disorder there. The implications of disorder in that part of the world would have a huge impact on all of us, including this country.
So now the possibility is of NATO sending troops to the region around Kosovo, a province of Serbia. They wouldn't intervene directly, but might help secure the borders of neighbouring Albania and Macedonia, two states with large ethnic Albanian populations that could become embroiled in the conflict. NATO forces in Bosnia are judged to have had a crucial role in keeping the peace. But around Kosovo, if they are sent, it would be far more limited, merely seeking to prevent the spread of the fighting. But while such military options are still under review tonight, the diplomatic pressure remains firmly on the Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic. The Foreign Secretary, Robin Cook, is demanding he stop the killing and immediately renew a dialogue with Kosovo's ethnic Albanians. Robert Moore, News at 10, at the Foreign Office.
There were emotional scenes outside a Sussex court today when Billie Joe Jenkins' foster father appeared for trial, accused of her murder. The girl's natural father spat at Sean Jenkins and tried to push him. Billie Joe was 13 when she was killed in February last year. Our South of England correspondent Adrian Britton was in Lewes for the hearing.
Police had to escort Sean Jenkins through a barrage of photographers as he arrived at court. The 40-year-old, who denies murdering his stepdaughter, was then spat on by the dead girl's natural father. Bill Jenkins, no relation to the accused, was restrained by police.
Makes me feel better, it's okay? Makes me feel better. That's the least I can do, is spit. Right?
After receiving a warning, he was allowed into the public gallery. Billie Joe Jenkins, a bright 13-year-old girl, was battered to death with a metal tent peg. Her body was found on the garden patio of her home in Hastings. She'd been painting the rear porch. Within days, Sean Jenkins, a deputy head teacher, appeared at a press conference with his wife, pleading for public help in finding the killer. A month later, he was charged with murder. Today's proceedings have been tied up with legal argument. Tomorrow, a jury is expected to be sworn in and the prosecution will then open its case. Sean Jenkins' bail conditions have been renewed for the trial, which is expected to last 3 to 4 weeks. Adrian Britton, News at 10 at Lewis Crown Court.
Still ahead, more of the day's top stories, including how Monica Lewinsky upped the stakes in the White House sex scandal. Why a visit to the dentist might not only save your teeth, but your life. And what's the expert's verdict on Scotland's chances in this summer's World Cup?
Well, I don't quite agree with Tommy Dockett saying they'll be home before the postcards.
Welcome back. Monica Lewinsky, the young woman involved in the sex and perjury allegations against President Clinton, was today inching towards a deal with the special prosecutor Kenneth Starr. She has a new team of lawyers. Mr. Starr has said the door was open to negotiations. Our Washington correspondent James Mates reports.
For 4 months, she has been under investigation. Now Monica Lewinsky fears she could soon be tried and convicted of perjury. Her response has been to hire 2 of the finest criminal lawyers in Washington. Jacob Stein on the right, himself a former special prosecutor, and Preto Kacheris, a veteran defender of those who were caught up in the Iran-Contra scandal.
We just got in today, case today, basically. So we hope we have a lot to bring to the table.
It seems the demand last week that she submit fingerprint and handwriting samples to the FBI has concentrated minds in the Lewinsky camp. Her flamboyant but increasingly erratic lawyer William Ginsburg is out. The job of the new team is to win her immunity from prosecution in return for her testifying against the president. Special Prosecutor Kenneth Starr is very happy about that, delighted that after all his pressure, Lewinsky is back at the negotiating table.
The more that's done in a professional way, the less is done in a public way, the better this process is served.
None of this will have pleased the president. Not only does he not want Lewinsky to testify, he's trying desperately to prevent his advisors and Secret Service agents from having to testify too about his activities. He's now been accused by Kenneth Starr of behaving like Richard Nixon did during the Watergate investigation. Slow as this process is, Prosecutor Kenneth Starr is not giving up. And if he can now do a deal with Lewinsky's new lawyers, he may win himself valuable new ammunition. James Mates, News at 10, Washington.
The government insisted today that the high-speed rail link to the Channel Tunnel will be built after all, with an extra £140 million of public money. It will be done in 2 stages, with the most expensive section, through East London to St Pancras, not due to be completed before 2007. Here's our political editor, Michael Brunson.
It is 10 months since the car crash in Paris which killed Princess Diana, Dodi Fayed and their driver, Henri Paul. Still, every day, mourners come to the Pont d'Alma to pay their respects. But also visible is a cocktail of conspiracy theories about her death. There is no more fervent promoter of these theories than Mohammed Al-Fayed, the man who claims Diana would have become his daughter-in-law.
He is convinced that this was a plot, this was a murder plot, and that it was hatched by, it's not very precise when you try to pin him down in details, but basically by the royal family, by the British establishment, but by MI6.
Al-Fayed has spent enormous sums in search of evidence of a plot, and he has encouraged the spread of conspiracy theories throughout the world.
We're looking at something that really should not be characterized as a traffic accident case, but ought to be